All right, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you back to the very busy Steve Malzberg show on this Wednesday edition. And I am very proud to welcome in our next guest who is in studio with us. He's the Deputy Speaker of the Knesset of the State of Israel. He's running for Prime Minister of the State of Israel, Moshe Feiglin. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Great to have you up here. Really appreciate you coming up. Boy, do I have a lot to talk about with you. I mean, there's no greater passion that I have inside of myself than what's going on in the Middle East, and especially with Israel, and how where we've come to under this administration after almost 6 years. But let's start with, if we can, where we are right now. There were reports in an Israeli newspaper that one of Israel's top journalists had been talked to off the record by State Department officials, administration officials here from the U.S., and basically was told that whether Israel likes it or not, they're going to have a two-state solution. Whether Israel likes it or not, they're going to divide up Jerusalem. Whether Israel likes it or not, blah, 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 blah. And that Israel is blamed by the administration for being the impediment to the talks, responsible for the breakup of the talks, basically because of apartment units that were built. Where are we right now the talks have broken off. Where do you see the future of those talks and the future of any talks with the Palestinians?
Any kind of talks with the Arabs in the land of Israel, I do not call them Palestinians because there is no Palestinian nation. We should start saying the truth. Where were they? Can you talk about the Palestinian history in the 19th century, for example? Can you give a name of a Palestinian poet from the 18th century, or show me a Palestinian coin or anything like that? It's a one big lie. This false nation was created just for one reason, to destroy Israel. The minute, God forbid, Israel disappear, there'll be no Palestinians anymore. We should remember that the PLO, the organization that was supposed to liberate the land of Israel from all the Jews in Tel Aviv and Haifa and Netanya and Jerusalem and so on, that organization was created in 1964, when all these territories that now we're being pushed to give to
belong
those
to Jordan and Egypt and Syria, right?
So as long as these territories belong to any other Arab nation, they don't care.
No problem.
They only care about the last square inch that the Jews are holding in the land of Israel, because this is the whole story. It's not about them having a state. It's about us don't.
I've always said, and I've gotten a lot of flack for it in various circles, but I've always said, wait a minute, give back the land to the Palestinians. And as you correctly point out, and as I alluded to, it was won in a war, in wars from Jordan and from Egypt. Right. So they don't want it back. Jordan doesn't want anything to do with the West Bank. And Gaza, Egypt doesn't want Gaza back. So when they say give it back to the Palestinians, I always ask, well, when did they actually have it?
What kind of occupation they're talking about? I don't remember having a war against Palestinians ever. There was a war against the Egyptians, the Jordanians, the Syrian. There was no war against Palestinians. So if you're calling yourself a nation, and you want to be liberated from who? From who?
But now that is the backdrop, and as where we are, how history is. Nonetheless, the world, even Israel, through its prime ministers, has always talked peace, has talked with the Palestinians about giving land back, making an agreement which involves dividing up the land, etc. Even Netanyahu now. The talks recently broke off, depending on who you ask, but Israel withdrew because of the forming of a unified government with Hamas and the PLO, or the Palestinian Authority. But so I ask you, where to go from here, do you think, in the immediate, in the real political world, not what you consider to be the rightful place, but in the real live political world as it exists, what's going to happen next?
We have to face reality. We have to tell the truth, first of all, to ourselves, in Israel, between the Jews and themselves, between the Israelis and themselves. And the truth is that the whole Oslo process was one big mistake. I said it all the time, including during these last talks, that these talks are tremendous mistake. Look what we got from it in the last 9-10 months. All we got from these talks is a few hundred murderers walking around our streets free now. That's all we got from that. Which means there'll be more bloodshed, more war. This whole peace
Well, you're
process.
talking about Netanyahu releasing,
Right.
I think, 3 stages of Palestinian murderers, with many of whom directly murdered women and children inside Israel.
Yes, look, I appreciate Netanyahu very much as the Prime Minister of Israel, but I think when Netanyahu talks about two-state solution, he's making a tremendous mistake. And I'm planning to run on the Likud primaries specifically because of that fact.
Okay,
it's about time that it'll be very clear to the Arabs and to the entire world that the land of Israel belongs only to the Jews. It was given to us by God. There's no nation that belongs to that land, that belongs to its own land more than the Jews belong to the Holy Land.
And when you say you're in the Likud party, obviously to the right politically of Benjamin Netanyahu, you've run before in the primaries against him. You've done better each time you've run. What would as Prime Minister, what would you, I mean, that's what you would believe, that's what you would say, but what would that mean on the ground? What would that mean, in the world in which we live?
It means, in very simple words, the full Israeli sovereignty in every grain of the land of Israel, where we're holding, where the IDF led, where God gave what God gave us in the 1967 war, miraculously against all odds in 1984. All the times, in all the wars, the Arabs were willing to wipe us out, finish what Hitler, unfortunately almost started and stopped just 3 years before 1948. They said it openly. That's what they wanted to do. Once we finish the job, one will leave no hope for the Arabs to take over the land step by step. Then peace can begin.
And peace is an acceptance of Israel's existence.
Right.
As
It's
a
only
Jewish state.
only for our decision, not for them.
Okay, we're talking to Moshe Feiglin. He is the Deputy Speaker of the Knesset of the State of Israel, running for Prime Minister of the State of Israel. We have, thankfully, another segment, and when we come back, we'll ask the Deputy Speaker about American policy, statements made by John Kerry, statements made by Mahmoud Abbas, and others on the Steve Malzberg Show. Don't go away.